Hello, everyone. Welcome back into the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Ostapchuk-Kraus. I'm coming to you from a different background today. I was determined to do video because I skipped on it last week because we've been moving. We're in a temporary space right now, as you can see behind me. And of course, I forgot my microphone. So I'm using the old MacBook mic. I hope that this works. This really makes me feel like I'm doing a college project, but hey, sometimes you just gotta have fun with it. So before I get into just life update in general, I wanted to do an episode about change and just evolving in friendships, evolving in routines, your identity, I guess you would say, your priorities, your day-to-day, all of that, and how we are constantly outgrowing old versions of ourselves, and that's totally okay to do. The last episode I did was a Q&A, and I feel like a lot of it was about how friendships naturally shift. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we all have permission to pivot. So whether that's your work or your social life or your home life, and you just want to take a beat, it's okay to not be the same version of you that you were trying to be when you were 22. I think we've all had those moments. And I often feel like when people slow down, they feel like they're not evolving anymore. They're not growing, when in fact, slowing down is not a regression. It's not going backwards. It's also a celebratory season of growth as well. So we always glamorize these glow ups, and we're looking for remember when Hot Girl Summer was a thing? I think that we're all trying to become these better versions of ourselves and celebrating reinvention. And sometimes it's just this small pivot and this small change that needs to happen. And that just means sitting in this version of you that you've been craving so much, and that might come really naturally. It's really just about becoming more honest with yourself. But before we get into the big topic here, a little life update. I don't even know where to begin. The week has flown by. I feel like I just talked on the podcast about life. I'm 37 weeks pregnant when you're listening to this, almost 37 weeks pregnant. Right at the finish line, folks. Peter and I have turned a corner in terms of getting ready. I feel like we are actually almost there. We've been saying that for a long time now, but now we finally have most of baby girl's things unpacked. Thank goodness, this brings me so much joy. Finally setting up a part of the nursery. And by nursery, I mean, let me just clarify. I think a lot of people create these really beautiful aesthetic nurseries. I mean, I've seen them all over my TikTok. My entire social media algorithm is only pregnant women, babies, and food, because that's all I'm looking at right now. Why is it that I always watch people review crumble cookies? And what planet? I haven't had crumble cookies in 27 years, and I still will watch people talk about the crumble cookie flavors of the week. What is wrong with me? And I know I can't be the only one, because people are making these videos and clearly they're doing well. But anyways, I digress. The nurseries that I see on TikTok are so beautiful and so well done. And I just have to be real for a minute. We do not have a nursery. We have a corner, that's where we're putting this stuff. And it's an organized corner, and it's a cute corner. It's going to be fine, but they are not going to remember anything. Peter and I joked that him and I both had baby photos of us in drawers. It was when our parents would have us at their parents' house or something like that, and they didn't have a space for us to lay comfortably. You put a bunch of blankets in an empty drawer. It's one of those old-fashioned things that always works, just an empty drawer. So we have gone into it with that mentality of less is more. Now, with that being said, obviously we've had a registry, and getting all of the baby stuff is so fun, but it's been hard to sort of cut off the social media world from reality in terms of what we're going to do and what we actually want to do. There are so many of these brands that are beautiful, great brands, but they're so expensive for what you're buying. And I'm I'm only going to use this for 6 months, and then they're going to grow out of it. So I've had to have a lot of talks with myself and figure out what is actually important and what we really need. There is this aesthetic pressure of making everything look so perfect for the baby when she's born, but she's not going to know. So it's totally fine. We have a bassinet and we have a dresser. And we have a cute little corner of this room that we're putting her stuff in. And for that, I am so excited. Peter's mom threw me a baby shower here in the Midwest, which I was so grateful for. It was so sweet. Some of their old family friends came and their family came. So it was fun to celebrate then. But yeah, now all of the celebrations are done. If you guys have been listening to this podcast for a while, I have been with you since right after I got engaged, right after I found out I was pregnant. Then, oh yeah, I had a wedding. That was fun. Pregnancy wedding. And Peter and I had a few trips that we had planned, before we found out that we were expecting, that we went on. And then going back home for a big baby shower. That was on my side of the family. Now having Peter's baby shower on his side of the family. I'm like, you guys, we're done. We're done here. I've been pregnant for 11 years. That's how it feels. I'm like, let's freaking go. I'm so ready. So whatever I needed to do to fast track getting all of her stuff in this perfect little cozy corner, totally set up, is my mindset right now, because I just want to be done. I mean, 37 weeks. I don't have any more time to sort of relax anyways. Coming down to the wire. I just think there's something so grounding about doing a little bit less for an infant, because they really don't know. By the way, I'm not knocking anyone who has a perfect nursery. Let's be honest. I wish I had that right now. But I have to tell myself, I just don't need it. It's not necessary. And there will be other times where I can have a perfect nursery and a perfect bedroom for her. It's just not right now. And I'm letting myself sit in the fact that I don't need to perform motherhood. I don't need to make motherhood this perfection season of my life like I've done with other things. So when we move into our more permanent home later this summer, we'll have that all planned. We'll have a little nursery for her in there. Okay, yeah, so where are we at? I was listing the things. We have the bassinet. Oh, you know what I'm getting ready for is the actual hospital bag. We went to the doctor for our 36-week appointment, and they asked us, have you made your hospital bag yet? The reason they're asking this is because my mom loves to tell me, and I think I said this in the last episode, my mom loves to remind me that me and my brothers were all born 2 weeks early. That means that my baby could be here next week. So I don't have a ton of time in terms of getting everything in order. And the doctor reminded me of this when they asked about what's in my hospital bag. Of course, I went to TikTok, looked at what's in everyone's hospital bags, and God, everyone just really has it together in terms of hospital bags. But that part is kind of fun. Packing for a hospital trip is really just packing for a staycation when you can only bring the coziest items that you own and everything else in terms of expecting the unexpected. Our doctor was like, oh, you should bring clothes that will keep you really warm when you're freezing in the hospital, but also you're going to get really hot because your hormones are going to be crazy. So bring some short sleeve stuff too in case you're sweating. And I'm like, cool. Okay. Let me bring a few different types of comfort clothes. Same with Peter. He needs to bring slippers and pajamas, a blanket, a towel. I don't even know what his setup is going to be. Is he going to be sleeping in a chair overnight? Is he going to have his own little bed? Probably not. How long are we going to be there? How many different types of kids' clothes do I need? I don't know what size she's going to come out. I mean, I can expect it, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. I have certain outfits I would love to put her in to bring her home from the hospital, but is she going to fit into those outfits? And then everyone says you can't eat when you're in labor, but I've heard that everyone says that you should also bring a ton of snacks to the hospital because you don't know how long you're going to be there. So I'm like, okay, I'm really thinking of my snack game. I'm taking that part the most seriously. Cliff Bars, Gatorade, sour candy, maybe some oranges. Okay, so that's really all I've thought of, actually. I don't know. I don't know what else to bring. Oh my gosh. Maybe eventually when I get it together, I will give you guys an actual list of what I'm bringing to the hospital. But yeah, this is where my head is. I am truly all over the place here. I'm just happy that we're moving and shaking and things are getting done in terms of preparation. We're almost there, guys. Okay, let's jump into some TV talk. You guys know I love to talk about what I'm watching on TV. I used to be the leader of the Traitors Marching Band. I was telling everybody that they needed to watch the show. Now that it's almost done, I think it has to be the finale next week. It has gotten so slow. I'm so over this cast of characters that we have left, and I'm excited to see the reunion. So that's why I'm really hoping that this upcoming episode is the finale and that we're almost done with this. This is the first season of Traitors I've ever watched. And I really, really loved it. It's hard when this whole time you know that Rob is the traitor, and I'm just getting more frustrated every week as to why and how these people are not figuring this out. But it's still been a fun show to have on. Another show I've been super into is Paradise on Hulu. So it just came back for season 2. This is with Sterling K. Brown. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's the same writer as This Is Us, which I loved. This Is Us. That was one of those TV shows I sat and watched every single week for however many years it was on. So obviously the storytelling is very similar to This Is Us, where it's just, I think, brilliant storytelling, but it's not as sort of soft and empathetic as This Is Us. It's definitely action oriented. If you haven't seen the first season, I really recommend it. The second season brings in Shailene Woodley, and they just released 3 episodes for this week. So we only watched like an episode and a half, I think, but we were so into it. I truly can't wait to be done with the day and to watch some more episodes. But yeah, the show is excellent. Like I said, they just introduced Shailene Woodley for season 2. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely go back and watch season 1. It's only one season of like a high action, edge of your seat, layered, emotional, smart show. Like it's so good. And I saw Sterling K. Brown doing press, and I was like, oh my God, I think they're coming out with the second season. And I had forgotten everything that happened in the first one. They did a little trailer in the beginning. It was chef's kiss. So great. But yeah, other than that, I'm trying to think of really good TV I've watched. I think a new season of Mormon Wives came out. I have to watch. Oh my gosh, but I am so excited to watch Taylor Frankie Paul. That's her name, right? The Mormon wife. I'm so excited to watch her as the lead in The Bachelorette. I think that comes out soon. Peter does not know this yet, but he also will be watching, I think, what we should call his first season of The Bachelorette. He says he's never watched the season he was on, so I totally believe him. And he definitely has not watched the show since then. So this will be the first time he's watching The Bachelorette. I'm totally going to make him watch it with me. It's perfect timing. Come on. We're going to be bedridden a lot. We're going to have hours to fill. We're going to need a little silliness to put on the TV and distract ourselves. It's perfect. And by the way, speaking of things coming up, I don't know if anyone does this, but I think this happens every year around this time, like clockwork. Like the end of February, I find myself Googling, when is daylight savings? Because I am waiting anxiously for the sun to set later. It is the best time of year when that happens. There's always been all this weird talk about how daylight savings shouldn't exist. I personally think it's the greatest thing in the world because it's the one thing that puts like a pep in your step after you survive winter. To me, it's the greatest holiday. I think it's March 8th, by the way, because I just looked it up this morning. But you guys, that means we're like 2 weeks away. That is so exciting. I cannot wait. That just means that the sun will be setting more towards 7, 8 o'clock. And we've made it. We made it through. We're almost there. For some reason, daylight savings has always been, I thought, the greatest time. Yes, we lose an hour, but like, who cares? That all comes out in the wash when you have more daylight to be had, I'm thinking of all my Northeastern friends this week. I know you guys have been hit really hard in terms of snow and just like ugly weather. My brother who lives in Rhode Island tells me that this winter is just kicking his butt, and I don't blame him at all. Now in the Midwest, we weirdly have missed all of the snow. There hasn't been snow here in quite some time, but it's still freezing. It still gets dark early. So I'm looking forward to that season being over with. I feel like when daylight savings hits is when we all are officially in summer mode. You could have a barbecue out at night. You could sit outside at night. Okay, maybe not yet, but you know what I mean. It's like almost that time. Okay, I'm yapping away. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the main topic I wanted to discuss today, which is about glamorizing these glow ups, which is about acknowledging that it's okay to shift and change. And you're not betraying your younger self when you decide, I want to evolve in a certain way that I didn't really see coming. It's so funny. I just got off the phone with a former colleague, and she was like, I can't believe you live in the Midwest. I'm like, I know. It's the greatest plot twist ever. But it's one of those things where I never in a million years saw it coming. And obviously my life has changed drastically since moving out of the Northeast, since moving out of Florida even. I didn't expect to be out of Florida my whole life, who knows? Maybe I won't be out of Florida my whole life, but it's just rolling with this internal feeling you have and becoming more honest with yourself in that season. So the first thing you're allowed to change, and there's always so much talk about this, is your friendships. Friendships naturally shift and shape. And this is the important thing to remember. Them changing is not a failure, right? But it always feels like one. I don't know why. When I feel like my friendships have shifted or I'm not keeping up with certain friends as much as I used to, I feel like it's a tick of I have to get back to that. I have to get back to that. It's like something going off in my brain reminding me like, no, I need to call that person. There was a time where we were talking every day on the phone. I need to bring that back. And, sometimes we're taught that these forever friendships, these lifelong friendships equal success, when that's not exactly true. We assume that all closeness with people must stay consistent and constant. I think I read this once and it's always stayed with me. It said that it's very normal. I don't know. This must have been on some like stupid Instagram, like fact of the day thing, but it said that most friendships last 3 to 4 years. And it shocked me when I read it because I was like, that's not long at all. That is so short. I would feel like I failed if my friendship only lasted 3, 4 years. But if you look at your life and you look at the seasons that you're in and how much you change, it is true that you have like really great friendships that are perfectly morphed together for 3 or 4 years. And then things shift again, like then things change again and it ebbs and flows and you find a new rhythm, new friendships, new routines, etc. But I think that it's so important to remember that we need to give ourselves grace with our friendships. And again, I have that like screwdriver in my head about some of my female friendships. If I haven't spoken to them in a long time, or if I've lost the sauce on what kept us close, I'm searching for it. It's okay to outgrow these seasons that once brought us together. Sometimes it's realizing in those friendships that you initially bonded over your circumstance and not necessarily like your character depth. Now that could be true. Both could be true. You could have connected over both things, but circumstantially, you were in the same place at the same time, wanting to do the same thing and had the same priorities. And then boom, that person gets a new job, their priorities shift, or like boom, they enter a relationship, they're moving to Wisconsin and everything looks different. I talked about this in my last episode, but there's this thing about being in your 30s, especially where in your 40s, everyone is in a different phase of life. Some people are trying for kids, some people don't want kids, some people are looking for a relationship, some people are in a healthy relationship, some people are in an unhealthy relationship. Some people are looking for a career change, looking to buy a home, but yet the friendship prevails. And a lot of times that happens where, one person is evolving faster in one department, but slower in another department and so on. But all of these different values emerge throughout that, and you can still support each other in those changes. What becomes really difficult is when you and a friend who were so circumstantially connected, you had the same thing going on at the same time. You both wanted the same thing at the same time. And then your priorities shift. Right? It sounds stupid, but I even feel like with some of my single friends, and not all of them at all, but there's a few of my single friends who I get nervous that I don't ever want them to think that my friendship with them has shifted because I'm not single anymore, because I'm married and about to be a mom. I don't want them to look at me as like, oh, I can't talk to her about my dating life because she doesn't get it anymore. Like, yes, I don't want that to happen, but also sometimes it does subconsciously. And it's like, it's okay if that relationship shifts and evolves a little bit, that they are looking for support from someone who is in the thick of it with them. And that might not be you anymore. That doesn't mean that you still can't talk about dating with them and you can't talk about their dates and hear about who they're talking to. But it might mean that you're not the first person they call to talk about it anymore. But this is why I wanted to talk about like how you're allowed to change, because it can sometimes feel in certain friendships like you're competing for the thing that you both wanted or the thing that you both were after in a certain phase of life. And when someone changes or it shifts for someone, you're like, wait, why didn't I get that raise? We were both talking about needing a raise at work and she got one. And of course, you're not saying this to your friend. I hope you're not saying this to your friend, but you're just thinking it internally of like, this is a silly example, but I remember when I was at Syracuse University, I finally found like a good group of girlfriends. And I still love these girls. I still follow them on social, try to keep up with their lives. A few of us got together when I was in New York, but I ended up transferring out of Syracuse. I didn't stay there for 4 years. I ended up going to University of North Florida in Jacksonville. But my whole point is like, I didn't finish school with them. So I sort of fell off from the friend group that I was in. And I remember being in Jacksonville, and I had a really great group of people in Jacksonville that I ended up being so grateful for. But I'm saying this all because I remember looking at how close this whole group was. And I still find that they all hang out together. Like they all went to each other's weddings. I didn't go to any of their weddings. They didn't come to my wedding. Totally fine. It's not about that. I'm just saying that there was a part of me at a time where I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I was still in that group. Like, I wish I was still a part of that friend group. Whereas now I'm like, I don't need that friend group. Obviously, I still think they're beautiful, wonderful people. And I know that if I lived near any of them, that we would probably connect and pick right up and everything would be great. But it's okay to let go of this idea of a friendship that you thought would be a really long-term friendship and turned out not to be. It's funny how when you're a little bit younger, it's like, all right, I'll see you at 6 o'clock tonight. I'll see you tonight. What are you guys doing tomorrow? What are you guys doing Friday night? Like you always have plans with this circle of people. It feels kind of like Friends, the show. You're just constantly hanging out with the same people and you're always together. And then life changes and your rhythm changes, your career changes, your routine changes. And it comes to be like, do you guys find that you're making plans with friends like 2 weeks in advance? It's like, hey, what's everyone doing 3 weeks from now? Like 3 Fridays from now? Let's get together then. And then you sort of feel like, oh, is it sad that I'm making friends? Or is it sad that I'm making plans with friends like so far in advance? Like what happened to my spontaneity? But nothing dramatic happened. Nothing bad happened. It's just that your priorities shifted, their priorities shifted. And now we're all prioritizing different things. One of them being rest. I always see that thing that's like, what are you doing tonight? And it's like, I'm enjoying my rent. Like I paid for this apartment, so I'm going to stay home and enjoy it. But I also think that's such a real thing. And we should all be doing that, like taking time to slow down. When it comes to real friendship breakups, like breakups that feel like grief in a way, when you have to grieve the end of that relationship, that's a little bit of a different story. And that's something I can totally get into. There have been a few female friendships of mine that have changed so much over the years, one of which is just like no longer. And it's really freaking hard. It's something I still think about a few times a week. Like I'm like, wow, I wonder how this person's doing. I hope they're doing well, even though we're not super close anymore. But yeah, the friendship changing is leveled. It's when nothing dramatic happens. It just shifted. It's just that the vibes aren't connected like they were before. And it doesn't erase what it was. Like you still had a great, beautiful friendship with that person and so many memories that nobody else could talk about or relate to in the same way that this person could. And when it comes to making plans with friends, like way in advance, instead of just telling them to come over that night and hang out because you want to watch your TV show with someone and they're nearby. Both versions are great. Both are valid. Both are seasons that we all needed in life. And they don't mean you love that person less if you're making plans in advance, It just means that things have shifted. It's less texting, fewer phone calls, and then you feel like you've fallen off. I think it's so important to give grace to your friends who you haven't heard from or they haven't texted back in a few weeks because at the other end, they're doing their best and they're trying to perform perfectly in other aspects of life. And your friendship is not just one of those things that week. That's always, always okay. If I don't hear from a friend in a week or two, I always said to my friends, you could hit me with your car and I'd be like, oh my God, are you okay? Like something is wrong. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you good? Because I feel like at the end of the day, the greatest thing you can have in friendships is grace, is like giving them space to back off and know they'll come back. And because we need that time too. Sometimes I just can't get on the phone with a friend or catch up because our schedules are so opposite and we just like don't have time to connect the same way we used to. And it's like, whatever. I give you grace. You give me grace. You know, I'm doing my best. I know you're doing your best. I'll talk to you and I can talk to you. And I love you so much. You know? It doesn't mean you love them less. It just means that your priorities are shifted and you're allowed to change. This is like what I wanted to talk about today. Okay, I could talk about friendships for so long, and I really would love to dive into another episode about friendship breakups and how to handle that emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of it, because it's a doozy. But the second thing I want to talk about that you're totally allowed to change is outgrowing these old versions of yourself. There is this thing, I don't know why. Maybe this is because I'm about to be a first time mom. I'm freaking 9 months pregnant right now. Oh my God, I can't even believe that. But it's this thing of releasing these old dreams or these old ideas of yourself that you now don't identify with at all. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but that feeling of like, wow, I used to want to do that. Like when you see something on social media or you see someone doing something where you're like, oh my God, I used to die to do that. Like I wanted to do that so badly. And then one day you just like didn't care anymore. You know, what made me think of this is honestly the fact that I live in the Midwest and the fact that I'm not chasing a job on television currently. I was always so career oriented. Career was my number one thing in the world. And I said this in another episode, but I always felt like I could work on my career and I could work at moving to the next thing and climbing the corporate ladder and I would see results. Whereas if I worked on a relationship, I could always end up at ground zero, which is why I never had a boyfriend because I always prioritized work. With that being said, the things I wanted in my early 20s, like when I was 22, I was working crazy hours, battling different jobs between Fox Sports, CBS Sports, and really trying to get out there on the field, trying to travel with teams, finding different opportunities to be a reporter for different teams, like all of it. It was exhausting. I was chasing this Erin Andrews persona. And my friends who I met who were also doing that, we all laugh at this idea that we were chasing. And I think this is part of growing up. You know, I think there are certain things that we visualize and we want to see ourselves do them in a certain way. Like even if your job isn't being in a spotlight per se, because this one certainly was, I would see other women do it and I really glamorized that concept and that idea. And I thought, I want that so badly. Now, what's funny is like growing up, I had no interest in being in sports television. Sports TV, I just like sort of fell into. That's a whole other story. I could get into that later, how I got into that work. But there was an opportunity. I grabbed it and I sort of, because I started in sports, it's just like everything evolved into sports television. When the truth is like, yes, sports were great because at the end of the day, sports aren't, spoiler alert, it's all just a game. I actually found that really comforting to work in because when I shifted into news, it was so real and so dark sometimes that I was like, oh, sports are light and silly and like nothing actually matters. And when you go to a game, you know, people are paying to be there. When you're going to cover a car crash, nobody wants to be there. You know what I'm saying? So there's a little light in working in sports. Now, oppositely, people who work in sports see sports as like Bible and God. And like if the Dolphins lose, they're going to die. Whereas like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, it's not that big of a deal. Like, what are we talking about right now? So anyways, I thought that success in sports looked a certain way. And I worked in sports for over 10 years in television, wanting to be this personality in the sports TV world. And now that I'm in a phase where I'm becoming a mom and I'm living in a place where finding a job in media or in sports television isn't as easily accessible here. You know, I'm in Wisconsin. I was in New York City. So it was so much easier to do there. Like everyone's doing it. But I guess I'm just here to say like, it's okay for your ambition to evolve and for it to shift entirely. Your dreams can like reshape. I think it's very easy to fall into this pattern of wanting a certain thing because we like what it looks like. We like how it sounds. I used to love the fact that I worked at Fox Sports when I was like 22. I loved telling people that I worked there. You know what's so funny is like there were a few times in introductions to other companies, they would be like, "This is Hannah. She worked at Fox News." And I would be like, "No, no, no. Small but mighty error. It was sports, not news." I do not want to be associated with Fox News sometimes. Anyways, oh my God. I liked the glamour that it came with. Like it sounded like, oh, this girl knows what she's doing because she worked at a big company, or this girl must be good at her job because she worked at a big company. I wanted to work with like people who were well known or companies that were well known. And yeah, that's why I'm like, maybe this is just a part of growing up that you're just like, I actually don't give a shit anymore. Like, I think that settles in with a lot of us. It's like, I just want to make my money and I want to go to sleep at night. And I want to be happy and I want to be well fed and I want a warm bed to go home to. And I want to go home and watch my Hulu. But I think there's a way of letting go of this version of yourself that you wanted to be when you were 22, where you're still honoring that version of yourself. It's like you're not talking down to it. You're like, yeah, there was a time where I really wanted to do this and I did it. Like I did some of that stuff. Like that was cool. I covered the Super Bowl a few times. Like these are all these things that I wanted to do. Interviewing certain celebrities, like I wanted to do all that. And now I'm like, there's still a part of me that always wants to, and that's why I'm doing this podcast. Hello. There's a part of me that always wants to work in a television space and talk to the general public. I don't know why that is a passion of mine, but like, it's so bizarre, but here I am trying to make it happen in a different way. But it doesn't need to be this like big shiny bow that we sort of thought that we needed when we were 22. I don't know if anyone ever felt this way or if they felt like they were chasing work for a while and now they sort of are okay with slowing down. But I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that it's okay to completely let go of this version of you that you were hoping for when you were 22. And maybe this version of you at 22 has nothing to do with your career. It has everything to do with your relationships. Maybe you were in a marriage or in a relationship that you thought you would be in for a long time and you weren't. And you had to sort of let go of that version of yourself that you thought you were going to be now 10 years later or 20 years later. Sometimes you wanted that thing because you wanted to prove something to yourself. You thought, this is what I want. I've been talking about this since I was a little girl. Or sometimes you are pursuing that thing and you were pursuing that thing because everybody else was. When it came to me climbing, quote unquote, climbing the corporate ladder in sports television, that was because that was by the book, the only way to do it. I needed to go from network to like really make it up there. Or sometimes you wanted it to go through just so you could feel special and feel like I did it. I did that thing I wanted to do. Well, now what? Was it the thing that you felt like you needed to do? And is it okay to have that shift and change and mold into something else entirely? I also think it's totally okay if you're like, no, Hannah, I really wanted this thing. I wanted this thing so badly. And that's why I chased it in my 20s. And now I just don't want it anymore. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Like you just don't want to do that thing anymore. But it doesn't mean you failed at it. It doesn't mean that you weren't capable. It just means that you've matured and you see a different version of you now that needs watering, and I always think it's something you could go back to. It doesn't mean like pausing to do something else or to slow down or to maybe I don't want to get married after all, or I don't want to live in this area anymore. I don't want to be in this industry anymore. You can always go back to it. So just remember that moving away from it doesn't mean that you are not capable. And I have to tell myself this too. It's such a catch-22 of being a woman sometimes when you really want the career stuff and you really want the family stuff. Because inevitably, one of them has to suffer. And maybe it's just not suffering, it's changing. One of them has to change temporarily, of course. It's like so hard. And this is tales all this time, like women want to do everything, but it's so hard to say that you want to be at the top of the leaderboard in your industry, but you want to be a really good mom and you want to be able to go to every PTA meeting or whatever that looks like, every basketball game for you and your kid. There's no way to succeed in either thing if you're not changing. And that's why I want to talk about like giving yourself this space to change because you almost have to survive. The only way to get through some of these life milestones that we so badly want to get to is to like push the button on a change, even if we don't feel like we're ready for it yet. Going back to the friendship change, there was a friend of mine who I was so close with growing up, and our friendship weirdly hit a bumpy road like right before I got in a relationship, right before I met Peter. And we're no longer friends. And it makes me sad. But at the same time, I have peace in the fact that I know that our friendship was not meant to be in this season of my life. I don't even know how to explain that without going into the personal details, but like I feel like I would have gotten pushback. It would have made me second guess myself. And that's just my assumption. I have actually no idea because, it ended. My point of saying that was like, I just sort of let go. I let it go and I let it fall. And I never thought that that would be like the good, mature thing to do. But it actually worked out for the best because in this season, like, of course, I wish her well. I think about her often and I really hope she's doing great. But it gets to a point where it's like, I don't know how to save this and I just don't know what to do anymore. So I'm just going to let God take control of this one. And if our friendship comes back, if she ever reaches out, if I'm ever in her town, I would love to see her and reach out. Maybe we get a cup of coffee. Like, again, things could shift in a totally different way. Now that I'm in just like a different settled state of mind, I think that relationship needed to end before I entered this phase. And I sort of see it as like, oh, that was done on purpose. Basically, it was just trying to say that now the time has passed. I could see that that was a necessary change, that even though I didn't want it to happen, once I just pushed the button and decided I'm not going to put any more energy into this, I'm going to accept this change, it sort of fell into a position that worked out perfectly with the way that I'm living my life now, and I'm sure with the way that she's living her life now as well. And again, that goes for everything. I feel like there's this thing of just letting go where you're like, okay, I'm accepting the change. It's going to shift and it's just going to go and I'm going to roll with it. And there's like a weird power that comes with that after the fact, like after you've done it. And this brings me to the last thing I want to talk about, which is that same thing of letting go. It's embracing this soft, calmer side of you that trusts that the change will work out. This is about becoming calmer and softer in your ability to do the things that you still want to do and to cross those goals off your list. Let's say you're a new mom and you took time off of work and you want to go back to work, but you want it to look a little differently when you go back. Maybe you want to start your own thing or you want to leave that job. It's about having the wisdom to know I can do this. I know that this change is going to be good for me, and allowing yourself to fall a little bit. Because once you just like let go of something, you sort of settle into what you're meant to do. I also think of the whole idea around hustle culture. That, by the way, the hustle culture thing, oh my God, that was the thing that I was like obsessed with in my early 20s. And it was everything. I wanted to look busy, be busy all the time until I realized the most successful people in the world are getting lunch at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday with their friends. That to me now is what success looks like. Whereas before I would look at people who were brunching on, a Wednesday morning and I'd be like, they must not have their priorities in order. Like, I don't know why they're not at work. What are they doing here? How is this restaurant so busy on a Wednesday morning? When now I'm like, no, that those people have passive income. They figured it out and they can enjoy their life and not feel like they need to be impressing everyone all day, every day. But anyways, knowing that you can trust that this change was meant to be made, it's difficult, but it's just remembering that like any sort of change is not a regression. It may feel like it right away, especially if you're entering a season of becoming like slower and I am for sure. Like I'm about to give birth. So I'm entering a season where I have to be calmer and have like a little less stimulation in my life, a little less social media, less output, less hustle, right? And just know that what I can give, the pieces of myself that I decide to give that day will work out. I always think about that thing where it's like everyone wants a piece of you, truly, all day, every day. You have your work, you have your friends, you have your family, you have your kids, you have your health. you have social media, you have your marriage, you have your ambition, your goals, your pets, and you want to give a piece of it to everyone because, of course, that's how we express love, and that's how we express love for ourselves as well. But then some days it's like my work gets 100% today. I'm so sorry. I cannot make dinner. I cannot be here. I have to be at work. Sorry. And then there's other days where you're like, you know what? That deadline is not important to me. I have to be here for my kids. I have to go do this thing. Sorry, that's going to fail. So it's every day choosing one thing that is going to win over the next thing. Meetings run late, kids get sick, friendships fade a little bit. It's all just these small, subtle changes. And then time could pass and you're like, wait, I look back on the fact that I haven't talked to this person in a long time. Our friendship has totally changed. Or, oh my gosh, I've been putting work 100%. My marriage has shifted a little bit. The way that we prioritize each other, the way that we're showing our affection for each other has changed because of our lifestyle right now, or because of our routine right now. Maybe you just are done going out. You want to stay home and relax. These are all these micro changes that build up over time and create this new routine that you suddenly look back on and you're like, wait a minute, I've been doing this for a while now. This is now my Saturday routine is totally shifted. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes the biggest pivots we have in life aren't this big reinvention moment, that big glow up for summer or whatever you want to call it. It's these small moments of honesty where you're like, oh no, I'm actually this Saturday, I'm not making any plans. I'm choosing to hang out with my family. I haven't seen them, or I haven't prioritized them this week. That's a small example, but trusting that the direction that you're being led to in that season is exactly where you need to be. And then obviously, I don't know why I keep going back to friends, but obviously giving your friends grace to do the same thing, giving people in your life, your friends, your family, your employees, giving them space to do the exact same thing that you're doing on trying to prioritize these different things and following the direction that feels the best. I guess I just wanted to talk in full about trusting that little change and how it's going to eventually guide us on the right path. It's all this bigger picture thing that we can't see right away. I always go back to this. I say this to my best friends too. I'm always follow the feeling. Follow the feeling of if you are feeling like I am so tired, I can't keep doing this routine. I can't keep doing this job. I can't stay in this friendship. I'm so tired. I don't want to call this person and talk to them on the phone right now. I just want to sit and listen to my book. It's okay. Do that thing. And if that friendship changes a little bit, hopefully that person is, there on the other side, meeting you halfway and giving you grace in that. And no, take the afternoon. We don't need to talk every week or every month for that matter. Or it's the same thing with work. Hopefully you can be met with grace in certain situations if you just simply can't perform to that degree that you were performing in before. But yeah, I hope this episode was a little helpful, and I feel like everybody can relate to some of these shifts in life. I don't know how long I've been talking. I say this truly every episode where I'm like, what time is it? What day is it when I'm done here? But thank you for listening if you've listened so far. If you guys have experienced any of these small changes and you want to talk about them at a greater level, please let me know. I know a few of you wrote in wanting to talk about very specific things that I have not touched on yet, so I promise I will get to those. Hopefully next week when I talk to you guys, I've made a little bit more progress on all of baby girl stuff and I'm feeling a little bit more confident in my hospital bag. But thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope everyone enjoys your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.